Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Come on and grab a seat. Get your second cup of coffee, water, juice, smoothies, whatever y'all do. And come join us. Come on in. Welcome and good afternoon for joining the Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio for today's webinar addressing economic barriers and social determinants of work. My name is Yvonne Cherell, and I proudly serve as the CEO for the Ohio Urban Community Action Network. And today I'm so happy to be your host for today's webinar. We are the Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio, and we are an alliance of state and local advocacy, research, workforce, development, and health and human service organizations and funders committed to ending the system of disincentives to work known as benefit cliffs that trap many Ohioans in poverty. As a collaborative, we raise awareness and advocate for positive solutions to mitigate and eliminate benefit cliffs, to reduce incentives to work, and to frankly create a more seamless pathway to economic stability for all Ohioans. The Alliance is comprised of the agencies you see displayed on the screen. As a matter of fact, some of our speakers are members of the Alliance leadership team, and we are deeply grateful that our leaders saw a need for more advocacy and better policies to support Ohio's working families. We've been having discussions for decades regarding benefits cliffs. We all have been there. We've been there. I recall a time in my life in which I was able to utilize benefits like WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, or SNAP, and be able to use it as a stepping stone during my early days of parenting my young son at that time. And it allowed me a chance to combat things like lead poisoning. It allowed me to complete my college degree at a young time when my parents didn't necessarily have the kind of financial backing to support me. And so these leaders who have formed the Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio they understand that for history, many of us or neighbors or residents and families that we serve just need a little bit of a hand up and not a hand out. And so if we just provide a little bit more support, we can absolutely make sure that these families receive the support that they need. And so we encourage you and we invite you to please take action with us. There's a couple of ways you could do this. One, you could become a partner and attend our monthly meetings like today. Today would have been a traditional monthly meeting, but we transitioned just a little bit because this is a very important topic into a webinar. Two, we encourage you to please sign up for our monthly newsletters. There's a chock full of information regarding policies and priorities and ways that you can continue to support Ohio's working family. And thirdly, join our webinars like today. We're so happy to have you here, our events, and our next advocacy day, which will probably be in 2026. We hosted our first advocacy day in March of this year, and it was a huge success. So some of you who have been there, you were there with us, thank you for joining us for this year's first advocacy. So why are we here? I will be honest with you. In recent months, I have been, having conversations with some of my colleagues, and I've been reflecting on whether, is policy or poverty, is it like a wicked problem or is it a policy choice? I mean, think about it. Is poverty just a problem? Is it a historical problem? Is it a generational problem? Or is it a real policy choice? Are we making smart policy choices to keep people out of poverty? And when I think about the trappings of poverty and the barriers keeping 37.9 million Americans, or 11.5%, in this vicious cycle, then I have to wonder, is it a policy decision or is it a massive problem? And so luckily today we have three experts who will help us better understand addressing economic barriers, and then looking at the social determinants of work. So particularly at this time when we need thought leaders to help us reshift our mindset as well as our economic policies. The federal government shutdown, the recent state budget cuts, those are very troubling decisions for sure. But as community leaders, as advocates, and service providers, we know that there are benefits to access healthcare, reliable childcare, transportation, a safe home that makes it possible for people to be in the mindset of work. So, really quickly, before I get to the main thing, because I'm telling you, we have assembled the dopest line of leaders in this community to talk to us about this subject. Let me just give you three quick housekeeping items. One, we are recording today's webinar, and we will be happy to make the recording and the slides available post the webinar. Two, we encourage you, this is a community dialogue. I don't know if you all are watching the community around us, the world around us, but we can no longer operate in silos. We can no longer have isolating conversations. This is a community dialogue. And so we are hoping today that we foster the kind of community dialogue that you will be encouraged to share your ideas, share some of your best practices, share testimonies, advocacy strategies, your call to action, whatever it is, share it in the chat. Sarah Hudasek, our great leader at Advocates for Our Future and one of our founding members for Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio, is on hand. She will be checking the chat room and she will filter some of these questions and comments. So please join the entire community. And then lastly, again, consider joining Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio. Like check out our website. Sarah will put the link in the chat so that you can go and check us out. Now, I am happy to be quiet and introduce to you one of the dopest lineup in policy webinar history. And I'm going to introduce them in order of presentation. These presenters, of course, will not only enlighten us on how to access resources that impact workforce participation and economic opportunity, but again, they will provide nuggets, information that will help us further this dialogue. I'm all about execution, y'all. I'm all about action. And so we're not just having a conversation today, we're moving into action. So first up, I'm happy to introduce to you Renee Timberlake. Renee is committed to building and maintaining roles out of poverty that work for both people looking for family sustaining wage careers and employers looking for that talent. She puts this commitment into practice through her work as a director of the Built Environment Collaborative at Greater Cleveland Works, and Sister Renee is a PhD student at Case Western Reserve University in the Mandel School of Applied Social Science. So again, you're going to get that real science, you're going to get that real data and that real information. Next up, Miss Cariss T. Smith. She is a dynamic leader and a strategist with over 2 decades of experience at the intersection of philanthropy. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Don't edit that part of where we recorded. And economic empowerment and community development. And as the director of community impact and economic mobility at the United Way of Greater Cleveland, Ms. Cariss drives cross-sector initiatives to dismantle systemic barriers to opportunity and advance inclusive prosperity across Northeast Ohio. Again, a real treat in our state. And bringing up the baton at the rear of this marathon is Miss Samantha Dawson Shahid, who currently serves as the Chief Program Officer at Tourist Employment, overseeing program contracts and continuous improvement measures. She is a licensed social worker and a proud graduate of Cuyahoga Community College and Cleveland State University, at which she received her undergraduate and graduate degrees. Her greatest motivators are advocacy, removing barriers to success for underserved communities. So again, I don't have to tell you that we are in the midst of greatness, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Renee.
Thank you, Yvonne. I feel a little pressure after that introduction, but it's the good kind of pressure. So thank you very much, and happy to be here with all of you today. So here, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it works on the first try. We know how that goes sometimes. Are we good? All right, I think that you guys can see my screen. So I am going to give you a little bit of background information on the social determinants of work. So those of you who don't know this, I actually had the pleasure of working with Cariss at United Way until a little over a year ago as the Director of Economic Mobility. And the Social Determinants of Work initiative was one of the big things I worked on while I was at United Way. So I'm going to give you some background about how it started. So it was COVID times. It was the fall of 2021. And there were some things going on at the time that are really relevant to this. And here are some of the narrative we were hearing. No one wants to work anymore. We can't find enough workers. People are lazy. These were the real messages that were out in the news. They were what employers were saying. They were what policymakers were saying about why people were leaving jobs during the pandemic and why they weren't coming back into sort of traditional jobs. So we figured that we needed to change the narrative. The question was, how do we change the narrative? And the answer came to me in reading, actually, Sam is here from Towards Employment. Towards Employment produced in the same year the Advancing Northeast Ohio, What Work Advance Taught Us About Building On-Ramps to Opportunity report. And in that report, they talk about the social determinants of work. I had just started at United Way and I was hungry to learn as much as I could. And when I saw that, I was like, that's a really interesting concept. Let me look into it a little bit more. And these are the two, literally the only two things I could find were this August 2021 article on the social determinants of work written by Dr. Angela Jackson and a placeholder on the National Fund for Workforce Solutions website that literally just said this. And I just pulled this the other day. It's still what it says. Dr. Jackson's article was really about how there were two large groups of people during the pandemic. There were those who were thriving and those who were not in terms of work. And she was really looking at what are the conditions that were in place for the people who were thriving versus those who were not thriving. And this led her to identify the first 5 of the social determinants of work. So these are you'll see that there are 8. So these first 5 social determinants of work are what Dr. Jackson identified: job flexibility, healthcare, childcare, transportation, and sustained education. The other 3 United Way staff and Towards Employment staff came up with together. So we added on home and community health, broadband access, and access to justice. And the goal, we also expanded the concept beyond just, pandemic related work experiences to what are people's barriers to work, period. And if you think about these 8 social determinants of work, and we'll get into definitions here in just a second, these are all things that either need to be in place for somebody to have a quality work experience. And if they're not, then that results in a negative work experience or underemployment or unemployment or low wage work. So these social determinants of work are things that impact all of us. One of my favorite examples of how, I think we adopted this framework thinking about it in terms of how do people who are economically struggling, how can we explain that it's not a lack of desire to work, it's not a lack of motivation, it is that there are all of these things getting in the way of that person being able to thrive. That was kind of the narrative we were starting out with, and we wanted to change that narrative of people are lazy, people don't want to work. Let's actually put some logic behind what is the situation that we're seeing in terms of work and the difficulty in finding workers. But it turns out the more we got into it, the more I realized that this is something that these things need to be in place for all of us. It's just that some of us have them and some of us don't. So one of my favorite examples and my favorite time of using this was with Leadership Cleveland. There were 75 people in the room at United Way in our big boardroom. And I said to them, how many of you would lose your job if your car broke down on your way to work this morning? Not a single person in the room raised their hand. How many of you would lose wages if your car broke down on your way to work this morning? Not a single person raised their hand. So then we start talking about why. Why is that? It's because you have job flexibility. You might be able to work remotely, which also means you probably have broadband access. It means you likely have paid time off, which also goes into job flexibility. You probably also, this doesn't show up here, you probably also have access to savings or credit that will allow you to fix the car in the first place. Obviously, this is a transportation issue. So as you can see, that one thing really hits on multiple different aspects of the social determinants of work. So if you are a wage earner, if you're not a salaried employee, but you're an hourly worker, then your chances of losing wages because you can't get to work are significantly higher. If you happen to work for a place that has no tolerance for absence or tardiness, then you might also lose your job. And what are the ripple effects of all of those things? So I think that really, to me, does two things. One, it tells us that these affect all of us in some way, shape, or form. The other is that they are all interconnected. Just because one works out doesn't mean that the others will work out. And if you don't have job flexibility, then maybe healthcare, transportation, maybe other things are impacted because these are all they sort of pile up to result in either success or in barriers. Um, so these are some, I won't get into too much about these. These are just a little bit more definitions about each of these things. The two I really like to dive into a little bit are home and community health. To me, that's really the social determinants of health sort of fall into that, but we're looking at stable housing, access to quality food and healthcare within your community, safe living environment, that kind of thing. And then the other one is access to justice. To me, there are three tiers to this. The first one is that there are fair interactions with the legal system in the first place. So your community has a good relationship with the legal system. There's legal counsel when you need it. And then if you have a negative interaction with the justice system, then there are opportunities for you post-conviction. So these are kind of a little bit more on the 8 social determinants of work. So we ran, when I was at United Way, we held 9 community conversations, sorry, not the official United Way community conversations, but basically focus groups on the social determinants of work. And in each of those 9 groups, we heard the same 3 social determinants of work come up over and over again: transportation, childcare, and job flexibility for every group, whether it was single mothers, veterans, justice involved individuals, people with disabilities. These 3 came up over and over again. And you'll hear more about that, particularly from Sam. So the last thing I want to talk to you about in my remaining couple of minutes is how the social determinants of work can be put into action. So my connection to the Built Environment Collaborative actually started while I was at United Way. Part of the Built Environment Collaborative is the Barrier Removal Fund. We set aside a chunk of the money that the city of Cleveland gave to us to actively remove barriers. So I want to show you what we've done with it so far. We have spent almost $600,000 of the money that we have. That money has gone, this is a lot to look at, so I'll just walk you through it quickly. On the left-hand side on the top, you see all the numbers of requests that we've had for different things. So we've got transportation, reinstatement fees, housing and utilities, gear and tools, childcare, small business support, technology support, course materials. For number of reasons, gear and tools is the highest there, word spread. So the next pie chart shows without that. And you can see the dominant request after gear and tools is transportation. You can also see that reinstatement fees, we've helped 21 people cover their legal fees around reinstatement so they can get driver's license. On the bottom, it's basically the same information, but by cost instead of by number. So I will put this in the chat unless Sarah can find it before me. But Monday morning, we were in Signal, Cleveland, and the title of the article was something like $289 helped a woman Cleveland resident triple her income. So we covered, through our barrier removal fund, we covered the back pay that she owed her childcare facility and the first 3 weeks of her childcare while she trained to be an operating engineer. And now she's a second-year operating engineer, and you can look up their prevailing wages, but she is making 3 times what she was making before she started that. And the support from us, in the grand scheme of things, was minimal to get her beyond that. And I just talked to her the other day, and she told me that she does not know how she could have done it without that support. So I think it's just a good example. Oh, there's my alarm. It's just a really good concrete example of how addressing the social determinants of work can be literally life-changing for the people who receive that support. And at that, I will stop sharing and hand it over to my colleague and friend, Cariss.
Thank you, Renee. And I appreciate that. And I am going to attempt chair as well. One moment, please. Let's see. One moment. Yes. Can everyone see my slides?
No,
No? Okay.
dark.
All right.
It's just yeah. Oh, there it goes.
Is it there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me know. All right. Thank you so much, Renee. I really appreciate the information and the updates on what you all are doing with the built environment with social determinants of work. And again, I'm Cariss Turner-Smith, Director, Community Impact and Economic Mobility here at United Way of Greater Cleveland. And I am going to talk about how we are carrying forth the work that Renee started here with United Way. One second. Doesn't look like my slides are advancing. Okay, there we go. All right. So our initial our initial social determinants of work findings provided a new level of insights into the challenges working families face and the barriers they have to overcome on their way to economic mobility. We are so appreciative of the work that Renee did, bringing social determinants of work to United Way. The awareness of Dr. Jackson's framework has deeply informed our understanding of the barriers that so many working people have to overcome just to arrive and thrive at work. Additionally, having this knowledge has allowed us to infuse strategies to address social determinants of work throughout our ongoing strategies. And so again, United Way, like social determinants of work, our initial, give me one second, just like the elements of social determinants of work are intertwined, so is our approach to creating movement to overcome them. The United Way Network has a wealth of resources that we utilize every day to create impact. Some of the tools that we've specifically engaged to address these are our advocacy and policy work, which is led by Miriam Kiefer. And within that realm, we held the initial Social Determinants of Work Symposium and provided a panelist for Dr. Jackson's most recent conference around her new book, The Win-Win Workplace. Additionally, we're also working with Dr. Jackson as she's developing the employer toolkit that she and Renee started. And our marketing department has continued to engage in awareness around the framework through producing several social determinants of work informer videos, one of which just won an award. So yay, congratulations for that. And our initial foray into social determinants of work has led us down a pathway of incorporating our policy agenda into our work. And another element of what we do is another critical element of moving this work forward is our 211 navigation resources and our database. United Way is continuing our community-based partnerships and coalition building to find accessible and equitable solutions to these barriers. At our core, we know that being a coalition builder and advocate is one of United Way's core strengths. We are committed to using all of these tools in our toolbox to harness the power of collective impact that can improve overall economic health of our community. In January 2025, we began the implementation of our updated strategic plan. And from this work, we wanted to renew our commitment to helping lift people out of poverty onto a pathway towards economic mobility. We are the front door to help for people in crisis. Our 211 navigators and resource database provide valuable real-time connections to the resources that people need. And we meet people where they are. Our investments through our grant making help move people and families to stabilize and find their footing. And we help people, and eventually our ultimate goal is to help people get on that pathway to economic mobility. We use our experience as a convener, advocate, and coalition builder to foster environments where people can eventually thrive. We are helping working families lay the foundation for stable income pathways, safer and affordable living, and positioning themselves and their families for long-term generational financial security. And with that, give me one second. And one of the key strategic goals to driving this systems level change is by promoting public policy that addresses the intersectionality of the social determinants. This is represented by our investment and participation in the ALICE report. Calculation of ALICE household survival budgets. These are really the bare minimum costs that household essentials, for household essentials that family must bear. So this includes housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and technology, plus taxes and a 10% contingency or miscellaneous expenses just to live and work in our current economy. And this ALICE data helps us by answering two questions. How much does it really cost to live in our respective cities? And how have wages kept up with the cost of living? And this ALICE report was created in 2009. And unlike the federal poverty guidelines, ALICE data is available to be calculated at the local level. It includes the cost of household essentials. Again, these things that we often see in the social determinants of work. And also the budget adjusts for the age of household members. It also changes for every locality in Ohio. And we use this to show the need in the community beyond the federal poverty levels. And this slide right here is just an indication. And again, this information will be available on our website. But this is just an excerpt from the Cuyahoga County ALICE report. It illustrates several key points. One, Cuyahoga County's median income is almost $6,000 below the state average. For a family of four with 2 kids in childcare, their biggest expense is childcare, more than their housing or food costs. And for working families with small children, childcare pushes their family income minimum needed for a survival budget to almost $90,000. And after childcare, other high cost requirements are, of course, transportation, as we've previously identified. And again, this is an illustration, another page from the report that just shows again this is what localized data could look like. It helps us not only identify areas that may need special attention, but where we can also explore other solutions for targeted impact. And just for a comparison, for all the other Ohio metro chambers, Cleveland is number 7 with 43% of our households living below the ALICE threshold. And this is important because one of the things that we found from our information with social determinants of work, 211 calls, and the ALICE data, it helps us think about how we can better help our callers. Crisis relief is being redefined. A lot of people who are calling and are part of the ALICE population are people who are working and don't qualify for public benefits, which again, this falls into those social determinants of work. It's very likely that this is the population that is most vulnerable when trying to overcome the obstacles which have been identified. So the smallest setbacks, like those we've seen in the social determinants of work, can potentially be life-altering and pushing otherwise stable families into poverty. And this informs how we partner and craft community solutions. So we have other financial tools like tax filing assistance, our tenants' rights work with the City of Cleveland, alignment with the urban agenda's economic opportunity and mobility. And again, this is just some of the ways in which we are trying to put together that puzzle of how we can help families thrive at work, and achieve economic mobility. Right. This slide, this is the ALICE report. You can look up more detailed information and even drill down into the report for your respective areas on United for ALICE. Renee shared this slide earlier. This is, again, like every other organization, we're driving impact within our own budget constraints. With that, we've leaned into our grantees who are working on removing barriers for working people on a broader scale, like towards employment. We've learned to appreciate projects that have offered the flexibility to address, to help people to overcome barriers to work. For instance, we currently fund organizations that support affordable childcare access, housing instability, create income pathways through workforce initiatives, and providing ways for people to access legal resources. Not only are we meeting people in moments of crisis by connecting them to safety net resources, but we're helping them to move to a place of stability and hopefully long-term economic mobility. And again, we have this renewed focus on removing barriers to work through key investments. We're hoping to improve accessibility to resources, and we're really through other initiatives like EITC, Banco in Cleveland, the Seymour Institute's Family Stability Initiative, and our Real-Time Relief, which is a program where families can get access to emergency funds through our 211 navigators. Before I conclude, I wanted to highlight one of the employer-based solutions that we are implementing. We are committed to looking at how we can help employers within our region improve their own practices and policies that would lead to increased job quality. We have great relationships with our corporate partners. They support us through their workplace giving campaigns, but also they have the potential to help us pilot solutions that can provide long-term impact. One of the things that occurred to us is that while we have people who are going to the companies and talking about our services and United Way and asking people to give, we actually want to highlight for employers that some of their own employees that are sitting there in the audience might actually be the people who are experiencing their own barriers, and we want to help them be better stewards of that and help employers see how they can achieve retention and growth within their own employee network. So Bridges at Work is a pilot program that launched in July 2015 at United Way, Geauga County. Through this program, we bring community resources on site to local companies for the benefit of their employees. This is an innovative and collaborative program that's designed to help address people's personal life issues that get in the way of them being able to maintain employment, be productive, and succeed in the workplace. We are hoping to bring this program to Cuyahoga County through an expansion effort early next year. We've seen some really good results from our efforts in Geauga County, and we are looking to see how we can, again, bring this to Cuyahoga County, engage with employers in a meaningful way so that they can, again, retain employees, attract talent, retain them, and grow them, and help them on their own pathways. And we'll offer additional resources like a 211 chatbot, which is our AI agent, for an additional layer of helping people and employers navigate the resources that they need. All right, so how can you help? I know you're wondering, how can I possibly support social determinants of work? We have an upcoming ALICE Policy Summit on October 14th in Columbus. It is free. We can make sure that you all get the link for that. We want to encourage people to implement strategies that support ALICE population and social workers who are experiencing barriers to getting to work. If you're interested in thinking about Bridges at Work at your organization, you can reach out to us. But more importantly, we want you to think about how we can work together to promote ongoing safety net benefits, continuities for working families who are at risk, and also think about how we can work together to advocate for changes to policies, practices, and procedures that can help people get over benefits cliff. And with that, I believe I am turning it over to Samantha. We have a video that you all can watch at your leisure that just highlights some of the benefits cliff and social determinants of work that we're doing here at United Way. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Cariss. That was amazing. And Renee for going before me. You are both hard acts to follow, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to share my screen. Just a moment. There we go. All right. Can you all see that okay? You know, we can't see you when we're asking that question. So if somebody can just shout me out.
We can see it.
Great. All right, wonderful. Let me try to go into slideshow mode. There we go. All right. Well, I am proud to be a part of the Towards Employment team. This is our team. We're about 70 deep. This was from our staff retreat earlier this year, and our amazing team of champions, as we call ourselves at Towards Employment there. Our mission and values are listed here. We champion the potential of every person to succeed in a rewarding.
Sister Shahid,
Oh,
hold on 1 second. I
yes.
just want to make sure you said you were going into presentation mode. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, you can't
hit
see
it
me.
maybe one more time from the beginning so that we can follow your slides as well.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
we trying to follow all this juicy information. This looks like some good looking people on this first slide. So go back to from the beginning and maybe go into the slide presentation
Okay.
mode so we can follow along with the success
That's what,
towards employment.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for telling me that. Let me try to stop sharing then for a second and restart
And
because
if
it
you
looks like,
need, we can do it. Maybe stop sharing. Sarah
yeah,
is ready. So let's stop sharing. Sister
yeah,
Shahid, let Sarah, Sister Shahid, just stop sharing. And
I'm
Sarah,
trying.
go ahead and pull it up, and we got you covered, sis.
Thank
So you
you.
just let Sarah know when you want us to advance the slide.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being our backup. I knew somebody was going to need you. Of course, it had to be me. I got stuck. Y'all couldn't see all the navigating I was trying to do to get out of there. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm ready.
Next.
Yep, you can move on. Yes, thank you. Okay. Sorry, as I was saying, we champion the potential of every person to succeed in a rewarding career and work to strengthen policies that provide pathways to opportunities for all workers. And in our vision, we believe in a dynamic world of work where all people, regardless of race, justice system involvement, or where they live, have an opportunity to thrive. You can move forward. So who are we? Who do we serve? People who are underemployed, that are unemployed, and there are some statistics listed there. So about half of our participants that we see each year have criminal justice involvement. About half are women, and over half are parents, in some shape, form, or another. Over 80% are Black or Brown. Vast majority have no post-secondary credentials, and about half do not have a completed high school education. Often, as my colleagues mentioned beforehand, the statistics are the same, having these barriers and access and affordability to things like housing, food, healthcare, childcare, transportation, even when they're working. You can advance. Thank you. So throughout, as I'm going through our slides, I'm going to share a little bit about one of the stories of one of our participants. And so Destiny is one of our participants that I'm going to highlight here. She is someone that came by recommendation from a family member. She had already earned an associate's degree from Tri-C, but wasn't able to find work. She had inconsistent work that was coming her way, but then her background kept getting in the way of her being able to maintain employment or move forward. And she just wanted stability. Who doesn't? So she came to Towards Employment looking for just that. Next slide. This is an example of 2024. Our impact is all nonprofits this time of year are thinking about pulling our stats together and telling our story for the next year. So this is our information about how we performed in the community on last year. So serving about 2,000 people overall, and enrolled over 300 people in a credential or technical training to help them advance in their careers and earn more wages. We placed over 500 people into full-time employment, and about half of those people did have justice impacted backgrounds. So that's an amazing stat there. Average wages were about $17 an hour. Retention, as Cariss and Renee both mentioned, are huge factors. Getting someone employed, getting someone through training is one thing, but helping them have the tools and the support that they need to be able to retain work is even bigger. Nothing is more discouraging than getting in the door and then having to go back out for reasons that are preventable by any means. 160 advancements, so people that were promoted or earned extra hours, etc. And that advanced wage average was about $20 an hour. And then supportive services received. So that's all those social determinants of work, whether it's help with childcare, transportation, housing, whatever the case may be. And Towards Employment also staffs 2 full-time attorneys, 1 criminal attorney and 1 consumer debt attorney. So we have those team members also assembled, providing those specialized legal supportive services as well. You can move to the next slide. Renee mentioned the work advance model that Towards Employment was a part of this evidence-based research project. Before my time, I've been with Towards Employment for about 1.5 years, and the work advance model is still very much active and a model that we work through and with throughout our service model today. Work advance believes in informing people in the beginning of what we can offer to them as a workforce agency and all of our resources. We assess their readiness to be able to enroll in a program like ours. Can you complete a 2-week workshop by coming, 6 hours a day without interruption? Do you have barriers in the way? Childcare, open active warrants, etc. And things like that. So we do an assessment. We make sure that you are going to be successful before we enroll you. Then you get into that 2-week career readiness training. And once you graduate from that at our facilities, you either go into a technical training or you get placed into a job, depending on what your personal career goals are. And then we continue to work with you for at least 1 year on that key area of retention and advancement based on our career coaching model that we have. So ongoing discussions about financial opportunities, advancement, how to stay at your job. You're having a hard time working with your supervisor. You don't like your colleagues. The bus route isn't working for you anymore. Whatever might discourage someone from being able to maintain employment. Those are the things that our amazing career coaches provide. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And most successful in helping the semi-attached and long-term unemployed reentry labor market. These are just some stats that we have based on the work advance model, some outcomes that we've seen. Evidence of increased earnings, so those advancements, that technical training placement, that follow-up coaching, which is key. And work advance participants earn $5,000 more than those that were not receiving that ongoing coaching and supportive services. So evidence of advancement, even 7 years later, there's still more likely participants that are impacted by the work advance model are still at trending at earning about 40,000 more than those that don't. So a chance to advance is what it's all about. And for every dollar invested, there's a $2 return. So really, really proud of that. Thank you. And so all three of us have showed this model, the social determinants of work, and we are all collaborators in the community. I'm so proud to be a part of a community where we support and we're an ecosystem where we're all aiming for the success of those that we serve in the community here. So, as we think as a workforce agency about the supportive services that we're providing around these areas here, we're all also every year looking back and saying, which ones are we underserving people in, where we need to get better at. One, for example, that we've been thinking about more recently is transportation. Sure, we provide bus tickets, but are there other things that we could be doing? Housing is another one that we've dedicated a lot of energy and resources and thought into this year. So you can advance. I'm just going to pause real quick and say, I am due to have a baby on Saturday. So if I'm a little winded, that's why. Just so you guys know, I'm okay. I'm just pushing through. As I mentioned before, our legal services are one of our unique contributions to our service model, which we're really proud of. And our attorneys do amazing things with our participants, and being able to have them right there and receive that qualified legal advice to those that we are serving is such a great asset and a unique offering that we're able to give. General supportive services, as I mentioned, and my colleagues mentioned before me, is a key, no matter how driven someone may be, how much, they may want to advance and be independent, or whatever their aspirations are, they need support. And again, I love that phrase. Someone said earlier, I think it might have been Renee, a hand up as opposed to a hand out is how we see supportive services. I know I personally can relate to that. And career pathway approach. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't. So many people come our way. They're so focused on earning that income so they can get out of poverty and not have to worry about being in survival mode all the time, which is traumatizing in and of itself. So having a career pathway focus and not just taking any job, which is what a lot of people come in saying to us, I just want something that's going to earn me the most money. But we know better. We know that if you do something that is going to earn you the most money that you hate, you're not going to stay there. You're not going to be the best at it. And so part of what we do is we try to align, where do you have the most opportunity with your interests as well, so that you can have peace while you're earning all that money and doing something that you can appreciate and you feel like contributes to society. And then employer engagement, as my colleagues also mentioned, and I think more specifically even Cariss in her presentation, employer engagement, dealing with those initial stigmas that Renee was talking about. These people don't want to work, people are lazy. We have an opportunity in our relationships with the employers that we work with that are in our community to talk to them about what are the things that relate to job quality. What are the things that are going to help entry-level workers versus those that are more seasoned? How can we temper the expectations of parties on both sides? So the work that we do with employers is really, really vital. It's not just about getting the job candidate ready. It's also about the employers understanding the candidate market and how they can best retain employees as well. Next slide. So back to Destiny. So Destiny graduated from our 2-week career readiness program, and she was great with her math skills and decided to be an electrician. She had already trained at Tri-C and went to an apprenticeship with, she had went through an apprenticeship program working with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and now works with a local electric company, recently celebrating her 90-day retention milestone. So this is a story fresh off the press. So she's definitely a success story for us. If you could move, next slide. I'm just gonna mention one more thing here. Our First Step program is that area that we talked about, assessing the readiness of our participants to make sure that they are actually fit to start our program. So it's kind of a holding pattern where we help remove barriers. So before they start full enrollment in our program, we already do some pre-barrier removal. We recently hired this year, which we're really, really happy about and proud of, a behavioral health navigation manager who is also a licensed social worker. She has an intensive background on counseling and providing therapy, which is a huge part of us being able to assess the needs of our participants and provide that extra layer of support around mental health. She's been really, really crucial. And that was a request that came from our staff members because we do run into a lot of people that have some very intensive mental health needs. It's been really pivotal. And then we are very fortunate to receive funding from an organization called LISC, which is a national organization that establishes financial opportunity centers. And we have a full-time on-staff financial coach that works with our participants as well. Those are just some special resources I wanted to mention. But I know we are at time. It's so hard to cover stuff like this. It's so easy to run out of time. And I know all of us are so passionate about the work that we do. So I'm going to stop there out of respect for time and just say thank you to everyone for listening and appreciate you all.
So at this time, we're just going to ask you all, first of all, if whatever capacity you can, if you would please share your appreciation for our presenters. It is hard. It's hard to share this crucial information, particularly at this time. We recognize that this federal shutdown, the budget cuts, there's a lot of information for us to consume to be able to make sure that we're getting it out to the community. So please share your appreciation for our presenters, because they are trying to make sure that you get the crucial, nuggets in. But we do have 3 great questions that we want to make sure that we present to the presenters. So one, before we run out of time, so one is, are social determinants of work used statewide or mostly in Cleveland? Are there opportunities to expand this framework? So we'll pause there and we will ask any of our presenters to respond to that question. So again, are social determinants of work used statewide or mostly in Cleveland? And are there opportunities to expand this framework?
I can jump in here real quick. So Dr. Jackson actually works out of Boston, partly through her own company and also through the Harvard School of Education. And I think we at United Way in Cleveland have done more with the phrase than anyone else has yet, but we don't own it. And we actually, early on, one of the goals was, like I said, changing the narrative. So take it, use it, apply it to your work. I think we would love to see it spread across the whole country because it is a really useful framework for understanding how people can be challenged by the structures that are in place and how that can keep them in financially difficult situations.
We have great explainer videos that we can share. So if you're talking to a group of employers or even policy, doing some policy work, we have some videos that can really help simplify the messaging around it.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee and Cariss, because obviously this is very important. I mean, when I think about this as a new grandmother and looking at the statistics of childcare, $13,000 for infant care to, nearly like $6,000 for school age. And I am so happy our family is in a position to be able to support my son and his wife, but with their new baby, but goodness gracious, this is a chunk. So when we think about the work towards employment, it's so impressive. Are there other organizations having the same kind of impact or are there opportunities to expand? That was a great question from our comments. Samantha, would you like to take a stab at this initially? And then we're going to invite Renee and Cariss to also chime in.
Apologize. I was responding to a comment there that was asking about getting connected to our services. As I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes, the question was it was a great comment, and it was just around the work that tourist employment has been so impressive in this space, and just curious around, are there other organizations having the same kind of impact, and then where are the opportunities for us to expand?
Yeah, I would say probably another really great community resource would be the centers, El Barrio. They do very similar work as we do, and they have the childcare component that is kind of baked into their model of the centers in general. So I would probably shout them out as far as another very similar provider to what we do as well. And they're really great with supportive services additionally too.
Anything, Renee and Cariss, about other opportunities as well?
I would just say I think looking at the participant list, I think there are a lot of people who aren't local to Cleveland, and obviously the three of us are all working in Cleveland. So there are a lot of good organizations within Cleveland, but I think you could look at workforce development organizations, so maybe like social service organizations. If you do searches like that, you'll find places within your community that do similar. I don't know if it's as good as Towards Employment, I have no idea, but that at least do similar kind of work, particularly within the cities.
Yeah. And I would like to just, as a part of the team, just share as the CEO for the Ohio Urban Community Action Network. I just hope that you recognize that the Ohio Association of Community Action Agencies and COAD, the Cooperation of Community Appalachian Development, are all part of the historic 60 years of serving communities and deep rooted in workforce development. So we've had a great history of following the trends in the industries of being able to prepare the workforce for the next generation of what we have. So last question really quickly. We have 1 minute. What would be a way to connect to services? I have young adults that are older than 25 years old, and I want to ensure that they can access services. So all three of you ladies, what would be a way to connect to services, particularly for people who have young adults who are around 25 years old, and we want to make sure that they have access to those services? So we're just going to lean on you to share your responses, please.
I'll go. The simplest one I know Towards Employment is going to talk about them. If you ever outside of the Cleveland area and you're looking for this information, reach out to your local 211. They are aware of the resources available in your respective communities. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'll concur. 211 knows everything. They'll get you where you need to go. And I put in the chat there how to get connected to us on our website, or you can get called. We do info sessions, educating individuals on our services twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So people can walk in if they like, or they can call and schedule an appointment to come in, whatever is necessary. But we serve anyone over 18 years old. And one of our great program partners is through Greater Cleveland Works, this Built Environment Collaborative that Renee works for. So anyone that is particularly interested in construction or skilled trade programs, they come to our program in the same way, but all they have to do is express that, and we, through assessment, help them get connected to those resources. It's a fabulous program, as she mentioned.
And so with that, we're going to say thank you again for joining us for today's addressing the economic barriers and exploring ways that we could continue to expand the social determinants of work. Thank you, Renee. Cariss, and Samantha for lending your expertise. I hope you all grabbed their contact information. There was some great information from, other constituents and other participants in the chat. Mike, we appreciate it. John Mark, all of that. We will make certain that we send you the post webinar information. And thank you again for joining us. Please go to Economic Mobility Alliance Ohio to learn more information and ways that you can join us in the call to action. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
all.
conversation, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Sarah. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.